Da da da.
Should maybe hypothetically be starting to be online. We'll see how it actually goes.
I see the little red thingy in the corner. It's a start.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I suppose I should be looking at the YouTube stream to see if it actually shows up, but I am fighting my bottle because I still have these stupid things that you have to pry the cap off, and I don't have a proper bottle opener. So,
It,
you know.
it's not hard.
Have you ever tried to open a bottle with grippy things?
No, I use a butter knife or a spoon. Do I
Well,
need to find that video again? Just a
I have special skills. My mother told me so.
I see.
Feel like I need a helmet. I shouldn't be allowed on YouTube. There we go.
Well, are you going to be simulcasting or?
Nah,
All right.
I thought about it, but I'm like I said, I'm doing way too many streams this week. I'm already going to have a hell of a time trying to get people to view stuff that's already made.
Yeah, it is fair. It is fair. Well, at any rate, howdy, folks. It's time for another Creation Science Theater.
Woot
Today
woot.
we will be once again turning to Answers in Genesis.
Our favorite I don't know what to call them. Resource
I
for
mean,
all things not factual.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, people probably saw the thumbnail. Spreading lies for Christ is
Mm,
the title of this one. But as I said before, this is going to be a drinking stream. I have
yeah.
not come up with the triggers, though. Well, I have them
Oh.
floating around my head. I have not decided, though.
Hmm. We could go with factually. We could go with factually not true or factually true, because I suspect actual true would be fewer, but who knows? Since it's
Hmm.
AIG, I don't know. I'm thinking of Dapper's normal triggers, but a joke that doesn't land, it's not really AIG style. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If anybody out
I
there
mean,
has suggestions, feel free to leave a comment in
yeah.
the live chat.
Like I think when they get a science wrong, and when they misrepresent something in science, are two good ones for now. Hmm.
Yeah,
Let's
possibly,
see.
possibly,
Hmm.
possibly.
Let's see. Maybe for a third. Hmm. Oh, how about when they just start randomly preaching instead of sticking to the
Ooh,
topic?
yeah, Bible verses because those always belong in the science.
Ooh, how about random preaching and Bible verses? So we can have four triggers.
All right.
Oh boy.
So to recap, preaching, Bible verses, wrong science. What's the fourth one?
Misrepresenting science.
Ah, twisting the science.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And so, like when they lie for Christ. Ta-da.
Da 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 da.
Yay, title drop. Yay.
I read it in a book once.
All right. Well, what are you drinking tonight, Ember?
I have another one of these lovely woodchuck hard cider amber whatevers. It's gluten free and made in Vermont. Hooray!
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure the
Oh, hey,
gluten free
Bree. I
matters,
see you
but
there. If you want to hop on, feel free. Oof. And we also have a look at the trees. Hello.
we have breeze and trees.
Yes. Let's see. As for me, I am drinking a daiquiri, which
Ooh, now I'm jealous.
should be
Daiquiris are my
tasty.
favorite.
It comes in a glass bottle, so
Oh,
probably not a real
okay.
daiquiri, but they're tasty.
Yeah, I had some of those on our first attempt at this type of stream. They're not bad. They taste like the flavored icy pops where you need the scissors to cut the thing off and yeah. whatever. They're not bad.
Honestly, yeah. Like that's a pretty decent description.
Yeah.
Oh. Here, you know what? This is a theater. Maybe we could make this one an open mic, at least until the Aussies show up.
Yeah, we could
they
make it like
awaken.
a Rocky Horror episode where everybody gets to throw bread at the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, here you go. All right, folks. There's the link to the StreamYards in the chat. If you want to come in and laugh or cry with us, feel free. That said, we might as well get started. So this hour-long video starts off with 15, 16 minutes of them just shilling their own products. So I just
Naturally,
kind of skipped it.
buy my DVDs.
Oh yeah.
That's probably for the best because
Oh,
we have
DVDs,
this habit of
presentations.
video reviews taking 4 times longer than the actual video, and I've got to scoot in 2
Yeah.
hours.
Like they talk about a movie and an app that they apparently have.
Oh, good. The
Because
Genesis
I
mobile
guess you
app.
need answers in Genesis in your pocket.
Yeah, for those occasions when you forget to bring your Bible because you're a horrible person.
Well, okay, having a Bible app I think is okay if you're a devout Christian, but the AIG app just sounds blah. Like who knows what kind of data that thing is mining? Oh, and we have a Bree.
Bree!
Hey, kiddos.
Howdy, howdy.
How's it going?
Yeah, not terrible.
Is this going to be bad
Yet.
dino stuff?
Yeah, a bit of it. It's dinosaurs, dragons, and Noah's flood with Biddle.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought Biddle was a
Oh.
play on Bible, but it's actually his name. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this. Apparently, he is the current president of AIG.
Oh, interesting.
I guess Ham's maybe just the CEO or something. I don't know.
Founder and an emeritus con man or something.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, this is a drinking stream, Bree. What you drinking?
I got white soda and vodka.
Nice.
I mean, hey, fair.
Yeah,
You also have access to the weed, so
I do.
Lucky.
I actually have that ready right here.
unfortunately, if you take a hit for every trigger, you might just die.
You'll be
Yeah.
the first
It'll be the
recorded case of an overdose.
Yeah, it'll be live on camera too. This will be like, this is what it takes. You have to sit down and watch some Biddle for an hour.
For science.
16 minutes in. Are you kidding? That before they even get started on the topic.
That much ads.
Yeah, it's just
Oh,
shilling
wow.
and introductions, which don't matter too much.
Yay, capitalism.
For anyone who's curious, Biddle, he has no relevant degrees. He's seems to be like a sociologist or something.
I'm
Social
shocked.
scientist, quote unquote.
The creationists never put up a scientist to speak outside of his field.
So as far as these reconstructions on his thing, though, everybody looks pretty accurate. I don't know about the sauropod here on the upper left. By the way, its neck is arched down. Looks a little uncomfortable, but
I mean, the
Might see the
stegosaur
angle.
plates are a bit big, but they're not horrendous. Like this looks like
Yeah.
mid 2000s documentary. Great.
I want to see more
Yeah.
feathers.
yeah, more feathers would be.
Or
Well,
any
what is
feathers.
Yeah, at least on the smaller ones.
This has got to be the Jurassic, though, right? So
I'm guessing.
the
Well,
I don't know if we would.
I
see
want to say that, but we have like a big hadrosaur over here.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just racing to get on the ark.
Ah,
Oh, that
Well,
must be, yeah.
whole different way to look at it there. Yeah.
Because there's only 2 slots per unclean animal, and I assume that they don't have cloven hooves, so it's just a pair for these guys.
Well, actually, some dinosaurs did have hooves.
So we know there were at least 4 dinosaurs on the ark, like mentioned by name, right? The the raven and the dove. But we know that that even a subgroup of dinosaurs can be divided into subgroups within itself, right? Because you got birds, and then it's divided in, which is a subgroup of dinosaurs, divided into raven and dove. Now, if we extend that to dinosaurs, think about how much more room we're going to have to take up, because it's not just like, oh, one long neck and one sauropod, or theropod. Yeah.
But yeah, some dinosaurs did indeed have hooves, so
That's pretty wicked
But
Could
we
be
looking.
need
clean?
cloven hooves and chewing their cud to qualify for the 7 space allotment.
Well, they
I don't
were
think
good at
sauropods could-
chewing, but
Did
Well, the
sauropods use
hadrosaurs.
gastroliths?
seems to be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I think their teeth were pretty much like rakes. They just pulled it into the mouth and rolled it down that throat, right?
Yeah. Basically.
They didn't have like molars or anything to really chew with. They had little peg-like teeth. It's thought they had really heavy-duty tongues, though, is what I understand.
That I'm not sure about, but it wouldn't surprise me too much.
Yeah.
Like me and the girlfriend went to the Field Museum last week and got to see a Brachiosaurus skull like right in front of us. I always forget how big it is.
Did you see the Dunkleosteus? That's always my favorite to go look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the little, they have a little thing next to it where you can make it go chomp. It's cute.
They got Lucy too, or
Yes, a very lovely reconstruction, honestly.
yeah. And then Sue, you had to see Sue? She's in her new
Oh,
home
of course,
now,
of
right?
course.
Yeah. When I was there last time, it was under construction, but there's a little tiny window you could peek through to see the construction site around her. They built the display around, like the room around the skeleton. It was pretty cool, but
Yeah,
I haven't been there.
I'd
since
highly
then.
recommend going back.
Yeah.
It's a lovely exhibit now. They have this whole like laser show where they talk about the skeleton.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, like they highlight all the real bones that are mounted, all the injuries she had, which she was beat to shit.
The late Cretaceous was a rough time to be alive, huh?
Yeah. And yet somehow she is not the most beat up theropod we have.
What's your favorite T-Rex? Is it Sue?
Ooh, favorite T-Rex. That's a real hard one. I might have to go with Jane.
Jane?
Yeah.
I like Black Beauty.
Yeah, Black Beauty is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to
Just
the
because the way
Burpee
she's preserved. Huh?
Have you ever been to the Burpee Museum in Illinois? It's
Where's it at?
in Rockford.
Oh.
Yeah,
I've ridden the
that's where they
train
have
through
Jane.
Rockford, but I've never gotten off.
Well, that's where they have Jane at, and they also have this big T-Rex mount. And it's a composite Rex, but when I was a little kid, like I was 5 years old and my grandparents took me there, I just looked at the T-Rex and I knew something was wrong.
Nice.
What was it?
A picture. Like a good picture. And see if you two can point it out.
Okay. Are you sharing it? Because there's nothing coming up yet.
I'm about to. Oh wow, that's a tiny picture. Thanks, Reddit.
Yay, Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, apparently it's I guess main variation is the AMNH mount. Interesting. I didn't know that. Here we go. Yeah, there was one thing that really bugged me about it. Well, actually, two things now that I'm seeing it again.
Is it in the skull?
No.
Okay, I have no idea. When it
Well,
comes to
first,
dinosaurs, I don't get much
The
beyond the
arms
skull.
look a little off, but
Yeah,
I
one
don't
of the
know enough to
arms is
place it.
turned inward.
Oh,
That's weird. And the other thing is, it has the wrong legs. These
Whoops.
are not the legs or feet of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Or at least they're not the right feet.
yeah. Oh my gosh, is that like a Herrerasaurus or something?
No, they are Allosaurus feet. And I picked that up when I was like 5 years old.
Oh wow, you're so keen on that. I would never look
Well,
twice at
you
it.
look at dinosaurs for like 50 times a day, every day, your entire life. You notice things.
Well, I might have noticed the arm on backwards, but I think most people might have noticed that if they were paying close attention to the part.
It's like if you were looking at a carpenter bee and realized it had wasp wings of some kind.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that would tick the radar for the average person. I think an analogy might be you see a
I think
Ford
that was
Fusion
especially for
rolling
me.
down the street, and it's got 28-inch tires on it. And you're like, something's not right there. It's like the wrong size thing on the thing, maybe. Yeah.
And the main thing I noticed was just they're way too gracile. It's like way too skinny.
Yeah.
Like, here's an Allosaurus foot. That's what was on the mount.
Okay, that tracks.
And over here is a T-Rex foot. And it's much, much more robust.
Beefier bones on the feet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not
They
only
hold a lot
that,
because the animal's more robust. Yeah, look how big that middle carpal is.
Well,
or
yeah,
tarpal.
the middle metatarsal, you see how it comes up to a wedge?
Yeah, much
That
more
is-
supportish.
That's diagnostic of Tyrannosaurus. And as you can see, the Allosaurus doesn't have it.
Makes sense. Now, I have a somewhat related question. Those look like really big claws.
Oh, yeah.
Considering their back feet, they're the weight supporting feet. Were those ever used for anything? Like, I mean, I've seen chickens go at each other and sometimes their talons get involved, but it's not like a primary thing. So why did they have such ridiculous claws?
So in Allosaurus, yes, actually, in a lot of Allosaurus feet, we have stress fractures, meaning that what they were probably doing was they killed something and used their feet to hold it down while they tore off chunks of meat.
Oh.
And just the power caused fractures in their toes.
Okay, yeah, they perched on their prey. I get it. That tracks.
But vultures do that, and vultures have a remarkably weak feet.
True. But vultures are also like maybe 50 pounds max. Whereas
And
Allosaurus
often carrion
routinely got
eaters.
up to about 1.5 tons or 2 tons. It also just appeared they were rather ferocious when it comes to feeding. Just all around, it comes off that way from their bones. But T-Rex probably has sharp talons. I mean, maybe partially for grip because it lived in a more swampy area, but could have also just been inherited. Just didn't have any pressure to lose it.
Do you suppose they did sort of like modern chickens do, where they'll like just tear the shit out of the ground to look for bugs? Except being scaled up like this, it would be like tear the shit out of the ground to like dig up proto moles and other minor mammals.
I mean, some dinosaurs, yes, but I wouldn't say that for a T-Rex.
Well, have a look at a murder bird's foot.
Which one? Are we
terror
talking
bird?
cassowary or terror bird?
No, cassowary.
Oh yeah, they got like a kung fu knife on the end of their foot. Don't want to take that to the
Cassowary
gut.
foot. Yeah, they went ahead and re-evolved the frickin' raptor talon.
Mhm.
Because of course something had to.
Hmm.
Why let a feature like that go to waste?
Just
It's almost like a dining set, right? Because you've got like that central spike, and then the one on the side is the hooky curvy thing, and the one on the other side is your steak knife.
But
Yeah.
you can understand why they're called murder birds.
I wonder how dexterous those feet are. Could they like grab a hold of you with that hooked claw too? Drag you
Oh,
down? So
not
they
sure
stomp you?
they could, but let's see if I go back. I think this is a Deinonychus foot over here, and studies have been shown on how mobile the toes would have been. It would have been able to grab with its feet.
Could it play piano though?
Maybe the big toe could move around a lot.
Yeah, I'm often surprised at how dexterous we are. Hairless primates with our impaired feet that have lost the opposable thumb capability. We can still grab things and manipulate objects, just not as well as with our upper feet.
There's some groups of people that have lived in the rainforest for a long time that have a pronounced semi-opposable toe. It's really weird looking, but they live in the jungle and spend all their time hopping through the trees.
But at any rate, true to form, we're 20 minutes into the stream and we've gone through 0 seconds of video.
Well, I'm glad because Beamsy's here now, so now we have an Aussie. We can.
Yeah, we can begin.
So let's talk about dinosaurs real quick. So dinosaurs currently are used by the world, by the powers that be, as a mechanism for teaching evolution in millions of years. Those two things are really what's going on with dinosaurs. It's almost a bait and switch.
No.
I mean, we don't use dinosaurs to prove millions of years.
We invented dinosaurs to lie to the children about demonstrable science. Yes, that's what's. My dude, people find giant bones hanging out in the dirt and in their farm fields and whatnot, and they're like, what could this possibly be? And it captures the imaginations of people, especially children. They're like, ooh, megafauna, tell me more.
Yeah,
Was
wouldn't
a
you be
cyclops.
curious?
Yep.
Dragons and cyclopses and unicorns.
Yeah. All
Griffins.
kinds of fun things. It's like, and the fact he says really quick as a starter thing. It's like, dude, you're in an hour-long video, and you're going to say really quick. Okay.
Well, so I did cut it out, granted. This is apparently just regularly an hour-long program. So he has to shorten his long presentation down to fit. But then they spent 15 minutes babbling, so he has to do it in 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Bring on the dinosaurs and dragons.
God knows that our kids have a built-in fascination towards large, majestic creatures, and the enemy has got this world wrapped around.
What was that?
I said, what did I just say? Kids love megafauna.
Yeah.
Large,
Everyone
majestic
does.
creatures. We all loved dinosaurs when we were kids, right?
Yeah,
was
some of
Jurassic
us
Park
still
generation.
do.
Are you saying that
Yeah.
I've never grown up?
Beamsy, we know you. You haven't.
In fairness, we don't actually know how old you are, BMZ. Just that you're technically younger than everyone else we know.
No, I'm both older and younger than everyone on the panel.
I'm thinking late Jurassic. Maybe early Cretaceous. Tell me if I'm getting warm, BMZ.
No, I'm
From the
I've
Miocene?
I've been on this earth 43 years,
Oh.
but I'm only 10 years old.
Gotcha.
Well, you've had 10 birthdays.
Yes.
So you're like my age, yeah, or just a couple years older than me.
Which I still don't believe, Bree, but hi Maya. Caught your stream after
Maya.
Embers last night. That was fun.
And Maya forgot one word in that statement. And Maya forgot one word in that statement.
And damn it, Beamsy.
Bingo.
I missed
Around his
Maya's
finger and he-
stream.
Oh, you should you should go back.
Go
and
back and
rewatch.
watch it.
That-
It was
yeah.
fun.
I fell asleep early last
Yeah,
night.
poor Dr. T. He. I mean, in fairness, he has an aneurysm on every episode, but this time he just went out. He took his hair down. He was rocking, not on purpose. I mean, he was rocking like, "Oh God, save me! Oh God, save me!" But you know, what? It was still fun.
Yeah, I don't know the folks on the show, but someone got really pissed. And it was cathartic to see.
I could see Stephanie getting really pissed about some of the nonsense they get into too.
Oh, it got better. Stephanie decided to do an after show, so Maya, Dr. T, and Steph went back to Steph's channel, and P-Town showed up, and then Steph got pissed.
Oh no.
They did.
P-Town?
Yeah, they did have a meaningful conversation and an actual dialogue, and there were some good thoughts that wouldn't have occurred any other way. But Steph got pissed.
Have you seen the interaction between P-Town and Aaron Ra?
Some of it. It's a lot of video, but yeah.
and he's using that built-in imagination and curiosity, and the world is feeding it in with these mysterious creatures that somehow went extinct, they think millions of years ago, and to teach millions of years and evolution. And you can see it's really, really open. It's everywhere. Life throughout time, a 700 million year history of life on Earth. You've got kids' books.
Sorry, did he say 7 million year history?
I think
700 million years?
Yeah, I caught 700 million,
Okay.
which I took to be like a verbal stutter, and I do that all the verbal stutter.
Yeah.
I
fair.
repeat myself.
I just heard 700 for some reason.
Books all over the place that talk about the Big Bang all the way up to dinosaurs, and it's pitched as one of the many eons or eras of Earth history, and it's used to really carry the idea of millions of years, which is of course a myth. There are no millions of years. It just goes out book after book after book. These poor kids are being enticed through their imagination, through their curiosity, and they lock into dinosaurs. There are some kids that will play these dinosaur games that come out, role play games or whatever, and they can tell you what dinosaur it is and how old it was in the evolutionary timeline. They're just being programmed
because they're
in
cool.
this idea of millions of years.
Yeah, I can
But
kind of see that. I remember when I was a kid, baseball cards were starting to diminish in popularity. A lot of people didn't really care about baseball anymore. But a thing that was starting to replace it before the big fad started, like Pogs and Pokemon and shit, were dinosaur trading cards, and it had stats on the back of like what year the dino lived and how many tons it was and all that stuff.
Yeah, I
found
had a
few
whole
of those
box
when
of
I was
those.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person around that P-Town does not like talking to.
Because you call him out on his bullshit right away, or because you
No,
use sources?
No, for some reason he just really does not like me.
I don't know. P-Town does. He's not really a science dude, so he doesn't really mind about sources one way or the other. He just I don't know. But let's not devote our attention over much to that person.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like that whole section could be considered misrepresenting science.
Yes.
So that is a drink.
Calling it a myth does not make it a myth, especially when we've got the evidence.
Yep. Oh yeah, probably should go over the drink triggers once again. We have 4. 1, when they get science wrong. 2, when they deliberately misrepresent something in science. 3, random preaching. And 4, inserting a Bible verse as evidence.
Which
Well-
I think we're about to do.
Did you have the pre-2 drinks due to the title?
His title or my title?
His title.
Dragons and Noah's Flood. One is scientifically inaccurate, and the other one is Bible nonsense.
Well, sorry, now it's 3 drinks.
Is the third for Dr.
Doctor.
Dan Biddle?
Yeah, misrepresentation.
All right. All right, 2 gulps, everybody. Oh, these are tasty. Just taste like strawberries. Now I want strawberries.
Those are that sounds dangerous when they're tasty. They're too
Mhm.
tasty.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposedly a daiquiri, but it really does just taste like liquid strawberry.
It's all good.
But I think dinosaurs are important because they relate to how we review or how we view 2 things: God's word and God's character. And I'll explain what we mean by that. So the question is, did God use a long, slow, clumsy, random, murderous process to bring about life on Earth through survival of the fittest plus random mutations? Or
Okay,
Hold
before
on,
you
wait
get
a
to the
second.
or, that's misrepresentation.
Let's go over these. Let's go over these descriptors that he's laid out here.
I
Along.
mean, I'm going to say no to both because I don't believe God did one thing or God did something else that he hasn't even named yet because I don't believe God was involved at all. But that's just me.
That's smuggled in right there.
Mhm.
God was, yeah.
Yeah, by that's it's not only textbook false dichotomy, but it's the original purpose of the black and white fallacy to give you 2 options so that even if you disagree with what the 2 options are, you still are accepting the dichotomy that they both have to do with God. Like you can deny the options, but you're still accepting God when that's the thing that's actually being questioned.
I just don't know if I describe the evolutionary process as clumsy. I mean, the fact that there's still life managing to eke through all the conditions and changes that have been thrown at it with all the extinction events and all this that still manages to persevere is pretty damn impressive, in my opinion.
It's also not very murderous.
It's a little murderous. Although he mentions random twice.
Well, okay, if for it to be murder, doesn't there have to be intent? Because otherwise it's just manslaughter.
Well, yeah, that does raise an interesting question. To be murder, it technically has to be illegal, a human law, which is why killing in war is not murder, self-defense is not murder. So in nature, where human laws don't apply, can it even be called murder?
Well, aren't the 2 criteria intentional and unlawful? Because self-defense is intentional but lawful, and manslaughter is unintentional and unlawful.
In legal terms, yeah.
Yeah.
To be murder, there has to be. Well, okay, so I only know the law in New York because that's where I live. But we've got 4 categories of murder, and only the first 2 actually carry the name murder. Murder 1 is premeditated. Murder 2 is basically negligence, criminally negligent homicide. It's when you do something that could lead to the death of someone, but you don't really care if the person dies or not.
Yeah.
Like shoving someone to an elevator shaft, right? They might not die.
or maybe not screwing on all the bolts for an elevator.
It's more the definition of murderous when you go to Oxford. It's capable of or intending to murder or dangerously violent. And the second definition is extremely adverse or unpleasant. Neither of those really fit with what evolution is. It just is.
Well, I always hated evolution being described as random too. Like everything that picks, like that reproduces sexually, is picking it's making a decision. It's not random. It's saying how I mix with this. It's making a choice. It's going to have either mate with this or not mate with this. Whatever, it's going to.
Like
there's going to be
the
driving
mutations
forces.
are semi-random, but the selection pressures themselves are not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's just what perseveres through both the negative mutations and through the environmental factors, right?
It's why it would be better to describe evolution as being plastic to the environment.
Yeah.
How many times you gotta say P-Town before he appears?
I mean, he has appeared.
Yeah. He's come to eclipse the sun.
Or
Yeah.
did he initially create a perfect world, lovingly give us free choice, and then we messed everything up?
Should we count that as preaching?
Both preaching and
I always,
I would say counterfactual.
I always like how this is the same demographic that scoffs at the idea that humans can impact the climate, but
But
Yep,
we
humans
caused,
are
or humans caused
responsible for
everything to go
all
south.
that's wrong. Yep.
yeah, we caused everything, all the wrong in the world. We caused rose bushes to have freaking thorns on them, for cripe's sake.
Oh.
It's,
Oh,
yeah.
Oh man, that whole McQueen presentation was pain. Ugh. But yeah, I'd agree. Drink for preaching, and it is when they misrepresent something in science, not necessarily just a lie or something that is just untrue. It has to be science related.
What if they misrepresent the Bible? Everybody has to do a line of coke.
You think I can afford Coke?
All right, fine. Fifth drink, misrepresenting the Bible. All right.
There's two.
Also, I love how their ads just keep popping up in the presentation. Like,
I noticed that too. I'm like, are they that desperate for cash? I know they're not, because they make millions a year, and they have reduced overhead because their for-profit facilities are state funded for some reason. And on top of that, they're selling ad space on the bottom to the point that it's blocking the text on their own videos. Like,
well, so this is on AIG's channel, but I think it was on a separate podcast. Like,
Yes,
Biddle
it's
just did a
actually-
presentation and uploaded a copy on the channel.
It's actually on something called Genesis Apologetics. That's what he's the president of.
I see.
Oh, it's not AIG. I just got him. Okay, yeah, I got him confused.
It's not
because
AIG, not
Genesis.
CMI. It's the other one.
I know there's so many these days.
CMI, that's Eric Hovind, right?
Creation
Ministry
Today.
International, Creation Ministry International. Creation Today, is that their show?
Yeah, it's their show. I don't know. Yeah, because his dad is Grace Bible Baptist NIFB PRQSTLM XYZ something.
Yeah.
And they make a mockery of the LGBTQ for our grams in a FIB.
Well, that's why I do that, is to kind of play
Mhm.
off of that dismissive nonsense they do.
Oh, look at the trees is telling us to prepare the stomach pumps. Yeah.
I like Electric Monk's comment. The flood is kind of slow and murdery.
Yeah, drowning's a
Well-
hell of a way to go
Mm-hmm.
for the
Depends.
majority of life on
Sometimes
Earth.
it's slow and sometimes it's really fast. It depends on what they need it to be.
It's pretty murdery, though. It hurts a lot.
Yeah. Apparently.
It hurts my brain a lot.
That too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Two completely different worldviews when it comes to dinosaurs and millions of years. Choice A is long, slow, random, murderous process leads from dinosaur creatures to mammals to eventually us. Or God creates a perfect world, creates land.
Yeah, humans
Damn.
didn't come from dinosaurs. That's a drink.
Dinosaur creatures to mammals to human. No.
It's just every time somebody says eventually us, my brain just goes mythology, checkbox.
This is what you get for that one. I'm getting a big old freaking rip off of this.
Oh no. The alcohol and the high. Shit. Like,
We need to.
I want to make an
those
Avatar
neurons.
reference, but what are the other two elements you need to conquer? So
What would
we
that
have
be?
the alcohol, we have the high.
Well, would you call alcohol water or wind, because it's spirits. So
No, Bree was doing fire, earth, and wind in that one sitting, and the alcohol is the water.
Or
Yeah,
at least
fair.
the soda that's with the alcohol is the water. Yeah.
But I was going more like high alcohol something master of all four drugs.
no. If you wanna master all four drugs, that's alcohol, marijuana, caffeine, and
Nicotine.
yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Mm.
There you go.
You were only listing legal ones, so
Oh no shit. I
Well,
didn't even
legal
realize I
depending
was
on where
doing
you
that.
are.
That's true. Here in New York State, we're only semi-legal. It's decriminalized and semi-legal.
I hope that Joe Biden is saving it for campaign season to do the whole nationalized legalization, but we shall see.
I mean, honestly, if that's part of his platform, it might help him if he goes
Yeah.
for a second term.
Otherwise, he just kind of sucks. But most
Yeah,
of them
I mean-
do, right?
His whole campaign is "I'm not as bad as the other guy," which
Yeah.
actually
Yeah,
means something in this case, but it's still not awe
I don't want to
inspiring.
get into a massive political tirade, but he was the lesser of the two evils, but we can definitely
I
do
don't
that.
even know if you can really call him an evil. He's just like so old and there, you know. He's like,
I mean, hey, evil can have a negative, positive, or zero value.
I do gotta say though, Joe Biden is the archetype of who I picture as president when the aliens attack. Some fragile old man.
you know, Simpsons
The
lesser
might have
of-
predicted this as well.
the lesser of two
Oh.
incompetence.
Yeah,
Let's switch back to dinosaurs before we lose everybody.
yeah.
Land-dwelling creatures on day 6 creates man at the very, very end of it, drew Eve from his side, and then he gave Adam 2 commissionings: name everything and take dominion everything. And
No.
Adam messed up. The
No.
fall.
He's misrepresenting the fucking Bible.
Oh,
Now,
damn.
some translations do say dominion, but most of them, including the Greek shit and the Hebrew shit, say that humans are supposed to be stewards over nature, not the owners of nature.
Stewards, good stewards.
That
Yeah.
would honestly make more sense.
He might be a King James only.
He may be, but fuck him.
Aren't most big ministries like that King James only?
No,
Most of the American ones.
Yeah,
you'll
most
find
big-
ones. You'll find ones that have life or anything to do with family or anything else like that are usually the ones that are King James only.
Dominionist, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
a specific breed. Like Greg Locke said, a King James only, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a while
Yeah,
since I
I
paid
know
that
that
much
I've
attention
heard
to
him
his rants.
I've heard him called a dominionist. Yeah, he kind of blustered himself out when he didn't act on any of the things that he was talking about. He was ready for him to do something. Oh, sorry, we keep getting distracted. Dinosaurs.
Hey, it's we're roughly on time for this show.
All came into this earth, and everything under his dominion fell. The dinosaurs started eating each other. Humans probably went after dinosaurs. So what we have at the flood, which is about 1,700 years after creation, is a snapshot of the height of the depravity that happened from mankind bringing the curse of sin and death into the world. So you can.
Okay, sorry, just a quick second.
So all this horribleness that humans brought into the world, humans are the worst thing ever. The flood was still God's doing. So we had, according to the story, 1,700 years to do our worst, and God still did something more horrible.
And
We're doing pretty
every-
good on the global the climate change and whatnot, though.
Mhm.
Not too bad.
Also,
Then you would have-
yeah, Sorry, he's saying that the flood preserves depravity. You take that freaking back.
Oh my gosh.
This adorable thing is not depraved. It is precious.
I'll take 2, please.
I
Yeah.
will fight him on this.
They remind me of sugar gliders.
You
I
have
like
to
their big
remember as
eyes.
well that the flood was predetermined because he's had to set the earth up to do his flood.
Yeah, that's another weird thing. That's not Biddle's problem, but it is a problem with the mythology. How apparently, like, the whole plan for redemption included the fall and the flood. They were necessary components to get to the redemption that you only need because the fall was part of the plan. But then immediately after the flood, Yahweh goes, oops, I regret that. Here's a rainbow to promise I won't do it again. So it's part of his plan the entire time, but he regrets it as soon as he does it.
Well, no, Yahweh's just an abuser. That's why he does that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll never do that terrible thing again. Here's something nice. Now love
What?
me.
Why do you make me hurt you? It's only for your own good.
You can see right out of the gate, we have two very, very different worldviews. If we have a literal interpretation of Genesis, which is the one that what we hold to, you have 6 days of creation, and God calls the earth and his creation good after every one of the 6 days. And on the end of the 6th day, or the 7th day, he calls everything very good. And then he commands everything to eat only green herbs. He says to the animals and to the humans, only eat green things. And then we have the fall that comes in, and through the
Let's
fall,
fact check
death
that.
Yeah, it's just
came into the world. Death was introduced into the world, well, along with thorns and thistles and pain and childbearing and the curse between men and women. That all came as a result of human sin. So death and suffering were brought into the world by Adam and Eve's sin, not by God's initial perfect plan.
Dan, I have
But
a
if
question
we-
about that for you.
Yeah, far away.
You know, when you were going through this and figuring this out, and you took that 90 days to do this research on this, were you was it primarily the theological position? Because that's what you just explained was biblically why you hold the position you do. But was it primarily the theological
Biblically-
evidence, or was it primarily the scientific evidence, or was it just a combination of both that caused you to change your mind?
You know, that's a great and very personal question. I can explain it honestly in 2 steps. What happened in my spirit when I heard the guy give really good evidence about dinosaurs walking with man is I really shifted on a personal.
yeah. Here he's talking about a guy who came to his church and talked about dinosaurs from a creation point of view, or creationist point of view, and
I
that
thought
believe
about-
this is
opened his eyes to the truth. According
About
to
the
him.
Biloxi Trackway, was it?
Because the Bible wasn't clear enough, he needed a human's interpretation to get it right. So that thing he was talking about, according to AIG, that whole thing about Genesis saying that green plants to eat, yada yada, that comes from Genesis 1:29 and 30, which says in the New International Version, then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. So, that it's an interesting little knotwork of scripture because it's saying a lot in a very few words. First of all, it does kind of support what Mr. Biddle here was saying, that according to just this passage in isolation, all the animals were supposed to be vegetarians. However, it kind of fucks over a lot of things. Like, it makes the case that only breathing things are actually alive, that plants are not living things, which is factually wrong. And then there's also the stipulations, like humans can only eat seed-bearing plants and trees that have fruit. And of course, trees with fruit did not exist in the first hunk of the dinosaurs' time, but that's neither here nor there. And everything else can eat green stuff. But it's only like the birds of the sky and the creatures of the ground. The stuff in the ocean, apparently they don't eat. They just grow by osmosis. They're just there. But
And insects as well. They don't actually they don't breathe in the same way that everything else does.
Also
Yeah.
good point. So yeah, there's a lot that's messed up there, but I do have to say, at least he wasn't technically misrepresenting that Bible passage.
I still finished my first drink because I'd like to have a buzz going. Also,
I
these things
wonder-
only have 3% alcohol, so
Oh, you're gonna need a few.
yeah. I mean, I have a stronger drink in the fridge, but that's for later.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm gonna have
Dino.
alcohol chocolate milk.
Do you know? Are you aware of any herbivorous amphibians?
I mean, I'm sure they exist, but I don't know of any off the top of my head.
Nor do I. I'm trying to think, and because of their gulping method of eating, I can't think of any that are actually herbivorous.
I mean,
What of what that were
according
herbivores?
to Google, there are no herbivores, but there are omnivores,
Of what, Clade?
amphibians.
Amphibian.
Hmm.
Apparently, tadpoles are often herbivorous.
But they grow
Yeah.
into predatory frogs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think as the adult form because I know tadpoles and a lot of the young morphology
Newt
actually have
and-
jaws to do it, but I can't think of an adult amphibian that has any form of plant in their diet because of the way their
Oh.
jaws work.
All the ones that I've ever handled and been around were all bug eaters. And
Yeah.
some of them were big enough to eat mice, but I can't think of any of them that eat plants. There's a Caecilian with like vampire fangs, though. Have you ever seen that sucker?
Which one?
Oh man, yeah, I gotta show you the.
Yeah. I mean, also like, I mean, they also say like carnivorous dinosaurs used to be herbivores too, and just no, they
Yeah,
literally
it
weren't
must
built
be
for that.
true because the Bible says so. Never mind the facts.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a T-Rex is not going to eat fucking melons.
Okay, so here's another bit. Verse 25 from that same chapter. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, and the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds, and yada yada. God saw it was good. What exactly is livestock in a world where you are only vegetarian? Like, what is the difference between a wild animal and something that you keep as a food animal if you don't eat animals for food?
I mean, I guess God designated them.
Because sheep are too dumb to take care of themselves. Somebody had to guide them.
Oh gods. Sorry, I was just going through Google randomly and I found this. Oh, this is horrific. This is supposed to be a T-Rex.
Look at the neck with ribs on it.
Is it a frickin' wish.com dino?
It's an abomination. I want to go doom on its ass. I hate this.
Look at that dragon frill it's got on its skull too.
Look, it has bone growing over the freaking eye. Oh,
my
this
goodness.
is horrific.
This
Where
artificial
is that?
creation funded by the Jesuit school of PBS.
Maybe
or
it's
something.
like just a pile of bones that was resurrected by a voodoo priest.
a little necromantic metamorphosis
Yeah.
or something.
It's necromancy. They just threw together a pile of bones.
It's horrifying. Oh, and Oh, that's Sicilian Brie?
Yeah, look at those. Look at those
Yeah.
fangs.
They are amphibians, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're pretty harmless to us. They're venomous though.
Really? I
They
didn't know
look
that.
like they'd love a salad.
Oh, man. Forrest
What about, like-
Valakai put out a video recently about the flood, and he brought up a point I don't think I've heard before. Noah must have been infested with so many STDs
Hmm.
to spread
Make
them
sure
on
they
to modern
survive.
humans.
Yeah, because all the diseases, the tapeworms, the viral vectors, the various bacterial infections, you only had 8 humans to play host to all of them. So they were the most unwell humans in history.
Taking care of the most unwell animals too, because the animals are also carrying all their being vectors for all their diseases too.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so everybody's sick with all kinds of diseases
With
and
every
pathogens
disease.
and viruses.
Yeah, so not only did they have to shovel, 12,000 tons of manure a day, but they had to do it while they themselves were suffering from dysentery.
That's exactly the disease I was thinking of when you brought that up. Because could you imagine having dysentery and emptying your stomach from both ends, constantly trying to shovel elephant shit?
It's
Oh my
it's
God.
a perfect plan.
Yeah.
Well, first, hello, Titan. And Beamsy, what are you wanting to share?
I'm just trying to say, imagine that sort of amphibian trying to be a herbivore.
Or
I
like
can't
an angler fish or something like that with needle teeth.
No,
Um,
this is one of the earlier ones. It's a bit
Um,
bigger than that. It's,
like a labyrinthodont.
I think that's what it is. I can't remember its name.
Nothing's showing up on screen.
Okay, it's weird. It's
Or-
showing up.
Or I got the loading circle of death.
Oh no.
There it
Oh,
is.
there we go.
Ooh, that's a
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like a labyrinthodont or
Stick.
something like that.
And you can see with the person in the background that thing is quite big.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, then,
And they
Is it
got
Myriaps,
even bigger
maybe?
too.
yeah.
There was one that survived until the Cretaceous in Australia, right?
Coolosuchus?
Coolosuchus. Yeah. It was bigger than that even too. Pretty wicked.
Yeah, there were a few.
Thanks for sharing that, Beamsy.
Mm.
Cool things.
Level to humble myself under God, saying, wow, maybe these little homeschooler kids are right. Maybe I'm the one who's got it wrong. So I stepped from what I thought was a 9-foot tall intellectual giant into a 3-foot child before the Lord. And I'm like, you know what, God, this thing might be true. So I humbled my disposition before the Lord. That was the first step. And then the second step was mostly scientific. My inquisitive process was driven by a scientific curiosity. For me, the theology was something that was woven into it, and I think it maybe motivated my inquisition, my inquiry into all of this, because I'm like, gosh, yeah, theologically I do have a problem here, but what does the science say? And that's what was really driving me, I think, was what does the data say? What does the science say? So what was
That's what you should be
motivating me, I
asking,
think,
yes.
at the time was I just had to.
So, in other words, he was guided by his theology, and if something disagreed with his theology, he just tossed it out. Great.
I already know what the truth is. So anything that I see that doesn't fit with that cannot be true, definitionally. So we just toss it. Yeah.
Oh, also, Beamsy. So that amphibian was Paracyclototus or Paracyclotosaurus davidi.
Yeah,
Davidi.
I wasn't going to try and pronounce that in my condition.
Dash fair.
Had to figure it out for myself if it was true from an evidence standpoint.
So that's interesting to me because essentially it sounds like you had never heard the actual scientific data that supported, because today you would say overwhelmingly that the science supports the biblical history, the 6-day creation, the 6,000-year-old history.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What were we
Yep,
drinking
yep.
for?
That's very not true.
we're drinking.
No,
We're drinking just to Kevin dropping some knowledge bombs.
No, that was a very much a misrepresentation of science.
Oh, that it confirms what the Bible says?
Yes.
The Bible
Yeah.
according to Kevin.
Was it so you just had never heard this information before? Is that correct?
Not to the extent that I did that day when this individual was going over dinosaur soft tissue and everything. I would say that the world was a
Drink.
very
You get Schweitzer out of your mouth, you imbecile.
Oh,
That's why it's a drink.
So he was getting schooled about Mary Schweitzer from a homeschooled kid, who in turn learned about Mary Schweitzer from who knows, AIG's
preacher.
DVDs, Kent Hovind's DVDs, whatever. For fuck's
It-
sake, this is like
it-
fifth-hand fuckery.
It is really just painful that they keep calling it soft tissue when there's nothing soft about it.
Yeah, you don't
it
you
was
don't have to.
mineralized.
Don't
They
have
had
to
to
soak your soft
demineralize it.
tissues. Yeah, you don't have to soak your soft tissues in acid for fucking a week to get them to be pliable.
Yeah, it's like saying, "Oh, hey, I can just pull a bone out of a chicken and tie it in knots." No, you got to soak it in vinegar for like a month before doing that, dumbass.
It's
be
also
fun,
the fact. I mean, there are only residue of some proteins that they were studying, and that's the extent of what they can find. Yes, it was still not mineralized, but it was still just residue of proteins that was what was left of the soft tissue.
Yeah. And it is a fun science experiment, Ember, if you want to ever try it with your kids. Only thing is, it stinks like crazy.
Mm-hmm. I did
'Cause-
it when I was in school, although I don't know if my kids ever did. It could be fun.
I don't know.
'Cause
I
I
did it
have
for
my own
science fair.
tradition. It's random, but I really like turkey. Thanksgiving dinner was my favorite. And so I started collecting. I didn't use the wishbones. I saved the wishbones. And then when I got 3 wishbones together, I attached them to make like a triangle shape. And then I took a drumstick bone and then put it on and made a holy symbol of the great god Turkey, of the tablecloth tabernacle. And I rubberized that so that it became unbreakable.
You
was
vulcanized it.
yeah.
Isn't this how he actually went back and discovered that Tyrannosaurus don't have wishbones?
It's possible.
This discussion, or
Well, I have mentioned the turkiness from time to time, but this is the first time we've
Yeah,
talked
maybe.
about putting bones in vinegar to make them rubber.
Yeah, but remember how I explained to you guys that a Tyrannosaurus doesn't have a wishbone.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
remember.
how? What? I mean, can you imagine the wishbone if they did, though? Like, the wishes you could get off of that thing. But I mean, how can you have a breast that big without a wishbone to support it?
well, because they have giant pecs.
Can you wish the dinosaurs never went extinct?
I mean, they didn't all go extinct.
That's true. That's true. I
The
mean, I would like
non-avian
to see
dinosaurs.
some, but on the other hand, because megafauna is cool. But on the other hand, I have a feeling that we'd still be, in the sticks and spears stage of our technology and running for our lives whenever we hear a roar in the distance,
Like,
I don't think humans would
genuinely,
have
if any
evolved it
dinosaur
ever.
bigger than like a velociraptor was still alive, I have my doubts that humanity would ever have advanced beyond the trees.
Hard to say.
I wonder how we would go with mosasaurs.
Never into the ocean.
I mean, with 65 million more years to play with, what could the non-avian dinosaurs have achieved?
I don't know. We probably wouldn't have ever evolved, so it wouldn't. I mean, I'd be cool with that. I'd rather dinosaur world continue. Honestly, I would
I mean,
I would
by the end
snap
of Cretaceous,
I would
there
snap
were
our
some
world.
wacky mammals that started to appear.
Is that a weird opinion for me to say I would snap our world in favor of a dinosaur world?
I think
Well,
I think Titan has it right though.
If T-Rex had a wishbone, it'd still be here.
It's probably true.
Very good job at obfuscating this evidence. There's not a lot of people that know about it now. It's getting out more and more and more, but I think the enemy does an extra special job at putting the hood on this evidence because
The enemy hiding the evidence. First we
drink for
invented
conspiracy.
dinosaurs.
I'm drinking for that synchronicity you all both had repeating that at the same time. The enemy.
It's fucking great. It's
Wish we had a
dinosaurs are an
soundboard.
invented conspiracy, and now we're hiding the evidence by showing everyone we can reach all the evidence they're willing to listen to us talk about. That's the best way to hide evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, speaking as someone in the sciences, we can't hide evidence. We're too excited to show it to everybody.
Yeah, they don't ever stop talking about it. Any of the scientists that I hang around love talking about the stuff that they research and work with.
Well, because no one ever asks about it. So when someone finally does, we just go apeshit.
That's one of the reasons that I love hanging out with, well, all kinds of scientists, because once I figure out what their field is, I usually only need a question or two, and they'll just light up and go off, and that it's amazing. It's one of the most, if you've never done it, you absolutely should try it, because it's one of the most amazing experiences. You're their new best friend. You're probably going to learn stuff, and even if you are a very smart individual, you will get that moment of not feeling like you're the smart, like someone smarter than you is beaming at you, and that's kind of cool too.
Rocks? Did you see rocks? Rocks? Rocks?
Rock, fossil, rock.
because it is so earth shattering. So whoever's on the call today, great job, because this can shift people. It's that powerful.
That's awesome. Yeah, keep going.
Good. All right, thank
stuff.
you. Yeah, great question. Yeah. Feel free to interrupt anytime. I'm sure we can have all kinds of fun sidebars here. So now, if we take a non-literal interpretation, we would have creation and then millions of years of death, suffering, and bloodshed, and at some point, Adam and Eve are created. Now, secular scientists park that at between 300,000 years and 315,000 years. Some estimates are early.
No,
we
there
do
is no
not
Adam
park
and Eve.
Adam and Eve anywhere, you twit.
That's a drink.
Yeah, he might be talking about mitochondrial Eve, which is more
he
of a
probably
population.
is.
Whoever discovered it had to use that term, didn't they?
But
Like, they
mitochondrial
just
Eve
had
isn't.
to.
But you've got to remember, mitochondrial Eve is not a singular individual. It is actually a small population of females.
Yeah, I know that. You know that. They have no frickin' idea. They just hear mitochondrial Eve and decides it has to support the Bible.
No, they just hear Eve.
Yeah, I don't think
yeah.
they know what mitochondrial means.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know how they actually survive looking at all the MMOs out there.
Because they often have biblical names for things, or...
No, there's one called Eve online.
Oh, no.
Except this one's for space.
And I've been debating opening up WoW again for the first time in like years.
It depends on which WoW. When they came out with Wrath of the Lich King Classic, I was all like, woohoo, because those were some of my best times playing World of Warcraft. Wrath and Cataclysm to some extent. But so I reopened my subscription so I could play that. But since it was open, I decided to check out modern retail WoW. and it's really disappointing. It's like all the character classes have been dumbed down so much that you basically have 3 talent points at like level 15 and 30 and 45. You get to pick one ability, and that's all the customization of your character you
Well,
get.
so that got changed last year. They did change it up a lot. Now it's an actual skill tree you go through as you level up, and your choices do have a significant effect on your gameplay.
I don't know. I do like the classic though, but I don't like it so much. They came out with Trial of the Crusader. They're up to that patch, and I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I've played it exactly once since then. Like it's nice to have, but it's also not. It's not enough to draw me in. I've got other shit to do, you know?
You can't relive
Yeah,
the
I get it.
experience that you had when it was fresh and new.
Yeah, like what I'd give to just go back and play Dark Souls again for the first time, or Monster Hunter.
I haven't played either of those.
Highly recommended. Both of them. They're both pretty great.
The best way I've been told to describe Dark Souls, it's like trying to break a brick wall with your flaccid penis.
Ew.
I mean, I describe it more as you are the underdog. You are always going to be the underdog, but you find ways to use your ingenuity and your actual skills that you have to build up through the game to overcome the greatest forces the world has ever seen. Like, you build yourself up from nothing, and it's a wonderful experience. Anyway, speaking of being worth nothing,
Earlier, but we would say, you know, it just happened thousands of years ago, and then at some point after Adam and Eve, you have the fall. But what about all of these millions of years of death, suffering, and bloodshed with animals eating each other? You know, when I talk with kids about this idea at cafes, I'll pull up my cell phone. I'll say, hey guys, let me show you a short video of a Komodo dragon eating a deer alive, and it's horrific.
you
Why-
bring that up
why
at
would you do that?
cafes?
It's always
Why?
dinner
Let me show you
conversation.
something traumatizing. I mean, so what? Like, so what though? Yeah, murder is red. Nature is red in tooth and claw, as the poets say. But what does that mean, though? Like, oh, this is horrible. Therefore, God made it that way. I guess somehow. Like, what are you trying to
God
say? What are you
would
trying to prove with that?
degenerate that way? Like, honestly, it's more damning statement on his God than anything.
I can only last about 5 seconds of it. And I just say, you know, is that how it was at the start when God called everything very good? Or did something happen? What is happening in your spirit right now? Does that feel like a very good earth where animals are supposed to be just eating the green herbs, but this deer sitting here screaming out at the top of its
Point of
lungs
order
as it gets
on
munched
this one.
alive?
He's asking the children if seeing this horrendous, vicious death scene feels very good. But he's comparing what humans consider very good with what God considers very good, and they are not the same thing. God
Yeah,
created a flood and called it very good. God ordered the annihilation of entire civilizations and called it very good. So, yeah, a grisly, murdery scene seems like exactly the sort of thing that he would call very good.
Yeah.
Slaughter all but the little ones who have not laid with a man and take them for your own is very good.
According to the law of the land.
In a roundabout way, couldn't we call this misrepresenting the Bible?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm desperate to reduce the pain.
Something doesn't feel right, does it? And they're like, no, it just doesn't seem like it should be that way. And it's quite obvious. Death is a result of sin. And so you can't really have all of
even
that
a
death and
5-year-old
suffering.
knows. Even Kent Hovind's favorite thing. Even a 5-year-old can tell. God fucked up. He did a shitty job. Look at the world around you. Something's not quite right. Okay.
Have you heard of the Trigon paradox?
The what now?
The Trigon paradox.
I don't think so.
If you see a butterfly caught into the web of a spider, what is your initial instinct to do?
Oh, sorry. Really quick, I'm gonna go on a quick bio break, but I'll be listening.
My
Me
first
personally-
instinct is to probably record it.
Yeah, I'd be like, nature's got a nature.
Yes, you've got three choices in there. You can let it happen, and that will allow the spider to live. You can free the butterfly, but that might kill the spider, or you can crush the spider.
And then they might both die because the butterfly's still stuck in the web.
Mm.
Yeah, I just watched. I wouldn't intervene at all. It'd be hard.
But-
It'd be hard to. I get that that's the instinct, though. I think that's all of our instinct. It's like if you see a lion tackle a zebra or something. If you had the power to, you'd want to try to help the animal, but really, it's not our place to, and they're doing what they need to do to survive, right?
Yeah, it's rough because you don't want to see anything die, especially, needlessly, even though the lion does need to eat. But on the other hand, there's also a little bit of kinship with that lion because we'd probably also be hunting the zebras because zebra is tastier than lion.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that video of the baby? What are they? They're baby marine iguanas, right? And they hatch on this beach. And in the time that they hatch, all these snakes come out of the woodwork, all around, thousands of snakes, and they got to make a mad dash through all the snakes to get to safety. It's an amazing video if you watch it. It's really tense. There's a couple of times where the lizard gets, where a lizard's getting caught, or you think it's going to get caught, and the snakes miss, or can't get a good grapple on it.
Action movies.
Mm-hmm.
Da 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 da. I don't know. The paradox kind of reminds me of So Daniel Quinn tried to recreate what the Genesis story might have looked like before the ancient Proto-Hebrews got their hands on it and changed it all around, because it's believed to be a piece of propaganda that their opponents were putting forth as a way to, describe how the Proto-Semites were evil and wrong and destroying everyone's culture because they thought they were right about everything. And in Quinn's attempt to reconstruct what the myth might have said, it involves a scene where the gods don't know what it is they need to do. They have all of nature crying out for guidance. What is right? How should things proceed? The zebra is about to be eaten by the lion and prays to the gods to spare its life, but the lion is praying for lunch. So whose prayers should be answered? What is right? And, fortunately, someone had the brilliant idea of creating a tree, the fruit of which is the knowledge of good and evil. And so the gods ate of this tree, and suddenly they knew, today it is good for the zebra to die so that the lion might eat, but tomorrow it is good for the lion to go hungry, and it's the next zebra's day to live. They could have made these decisions before, but if they were right or wrong, it was purely by chance. They didn't know. But now they know what is good and what is evil. But there's a problem in the garden. There's an animal who is different from the others, who is very much like the gods themselves in both form and capacity to change the world. And this creature, this Adam, has also eaten the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But not to worry, my fellow gods, because the fruit only nourishes the gods. It will have no effect on this Adam creature. He will not gain the knowledge of good and evil from this fruit. And then the one god whispers to the other god, does Adam know that, though?
Oh goodness.
Indeed.
Yeah. So in that narrative, I could swear I thought you were going to go with the snake there. When you said there was one creature who was like the gods. Because
I am back.
Huzzah! Yeah, I oversimplified it, of course, so I could get it out quickly.
Yeah.
I don't recall if there was a serpent in Quinn's version, though, because it seems like it's unnecessary for that
Oh.
flavor
for
of the tale.
temptation.
Yeah.
Is it weird to say that I'd actually kind of listen to you preach, Ember? Like, you have a very good voice for preaching.
Maybe.
You have-
I don't know. I am
Get
a minister.
podium. Get a podium.
Yeah.
Stand behind your podium and do your videos. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Also, I've decided to go ahead and prepare my backup drink, and it turned out good.
Tell you
Sweet.
what, our Goodwills and Salvation Armies around here always have podiums. I've never seen so many podiums in my life. It's like, where were all these from? Can't be that many venues.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got some
That is,
some
like,
Dr. McGillicuddy's with
Where
chocolate
do
milk.
they all
and it's
come
great.
What do you got in it?
Dr. McGillicuddy's with chocolate milk.
Oh,
So it's a minty chocolatiness.
Yes.
I haven't had a Dr. McGillicuddy in ages. I used to be on a drinking bowling league, and whenever we'd win, my team would win a game, we'd all get a shot of Doctor, and when our team captain brought them over, he'd always say, "It's time for our medicine."
I mean, funny thing. When my mom was a kid growing up in the 80s or 70s, her dad would sometimes give them a shot of McGillicuddy's if they had a really bad cold, because it always made
Mm-hmm.
just all the snot disappear.
Yes, I actually did that myself until I discovered the magical substance called wasabi. That clears sinuses even better.
oh yeah.
Okay.
That's
I-
not wasabi.
Well, I know what Ember means though, and I do agree wasabi does it better. But this was in rural Wisconsin in the 70s.
Yeah, what you are actually having is horseradish.
Yeah,
It
really
depends.
spicy horseradish.
You can get actual wasabi, though I have noticed they get switched around from time to time. I don't mind horseradish either, but I don't know. Like if you get the Heinz wasabi, that is horseradish.
Heinz has wasabi?
They have a green mustard that they call wasabi.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would trust that, but
It's not awful, but honestly, I like the spicy brown mustard better for mustard purposes.
yeah. There's a Japanese restaurant near me that I think has authentic wasabi.
Do
And
you
it-
see him grated in front of you?
Burns.
Were you there?
Yeah, no. If you don't see them get the root out and so the tallow out and grate it in front of you, that's the only way it could be real wasabi, because it breaks down too quickly otherwise.
I don't know. It seems pretty fresh and it's pretty tasty. That's all I know.
Yeah, if you don't see him grating in front of you, it's not real wasabi.
I didn't know that. Never mind then.
I'll give you a
Anyway,
link and you can
what
have a look
stupid
at.
thing is he going to say next?
We could place bets, but
Offering, because if you
We could. What would the bet be?
well, we could bet on what we think he's gonna what stupid thing he'll say next.
No, I'm saying, what would we bet?
Oh, I'm just like using it as a colloquialistic way of saying we could venture our own guesses, and then whoever gets it right or closest to right would be right.
Yeah,
I see.
in the private chat, there's a video there. It's a 6-minute one. It'll explain exactly why the difference between wasabi and what you get in the green thing is not wasabi.
Beamsy, was it
mean-
you that I talked about the cultivar history of bananas with?
No.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, interesting video I'll watch later, but
Yeah.
I see what you're getting at. That the conventional sauce that's served as if it were wasabi contains 1% wasabi powder.
But it's not wasabi, because wasabi is a very light green paste, and it's very earthy. It has a slight little burn to it, but it's so much better and so much different.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel you.
If you don't see them grated in front of you, it's not real wasabi, because wasabi, when grated, only lasts for about 15 minutes before it turns into a tasteless muck.
It's got avocado issues.
Oh, it's the saddest thing about avocado too. It doesn't matter. They're already crushed into guac. That lifespan is finite. It's done. It's brown. Ugh.
I've only ever had it fresh, but okay.
Yeah, wasabi, avocado, another one of those. Everything that has that light green color has a very easy, is very susceptible to oxidization.
Think you can put bananas in that category too?
Not necessarily. Bananas can last a fair while.
But once they start going bad, they're done. No,
Once they're exposed, like apples can last a while. Not even the GMO apples that can sit on your shelf for a year, but like regular apples, a couple of weeks in your refrigerator. But once you cut them and the meat is exposed, they'll turn brown within an hour.
Unless you put lemon juice on it.
Really?
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
what
lemon
places
juice
have-
preserves it.
That's like if you get the apple slices like from McDonald's or whatever, like in a kid's meal, those are soaked in lemon juice to keep them from going, and you can taste it.
Apple
You can
lemon,
taste it,
interesting.
but I weirdly prefer that taste. With just a hint of lemon, I'd like it better than normal apples usually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just know I
like-
know a lot
I like,
about it because I got a donation of them when I worked at this daycare years and years ago. Big old box of them.
Cool.
If you did before Adam and Eve were here to sin, you're calling that instance of a Komodo dragon eating a deer alive part of God's originally designed good earth.
No.
Well, considering your God is omnipotent, yeah. Like, God knew the fall would happen. He knew the Komodo dragon would eat a deer's baby out from its stomach.
Well,
Yeah, he
he's
knew that.
still trying to presuppose his own conclusions onto the secular model. He's saying, if you think this is what happened, then you're saying God did yada yada. No, we're saying God wasn't involved. Like, I don't know how much more clear it has to be made to creation-y boys like this. That the fact that you yourself see a contradiction doesn't mean everyone else is saying something stupid and your internal monologue, which is very incoherent, is somehow still true. It's that all these variants are incoherent, therefore you need to abandon the presupposition. Rar.
Rawr.
Arrgh.
That's not the kind of God I want to worship, and it's not the kind of God that revealed himself in the Bible.
We agree.
Well, too bad.
That's not the
That's-
kind of God I want to worship either. So let's not worship that God. Let's set
I
up some
guess-
cool totems and have some skyclad rituals with fucking alcohol and shit. Just
But
like
listen,
Jesus
sorry,
would want.
Two things. One, that is the God you worship. 2, that is the God in your Bible. So I think that's 2 drinks for misrepresenting the Bible. Sorry, you were saying something, Bree?
Oh yeah, I think this seems like it must be young Earth creationists to marketed towards potential old Earth creationists. They're like, no, if you want to believe in the Bible, you can't go halfway. You have to go all the way and believe these things because there's these verses.
I think that's the main idea of this. Like trying to reach out to other Christians, trying to make them think there's a contradiction that can't be accounted for.
That's the weird thing about these creaty boys is they try to point out contradictions as a way to bring more money, I mean people, to their side. And what they end up actually doing is showing people that their religion is incoherent and causing atheists to happen.
Mm-hmm.
God gave
Now,
us
you know,
choices.
can
We
I
must-
Oh, I thought that was one of you guys.
can I ask you something about that too?
Yeah.
Because you know, this for me, this is blatantly clear. I look at this and I go, well, gosh, it couldn't be any more obvious from Scripture. But I've had conversations. I actually was at a conference once where I was speaking, and Stephen Meyer happened to be speaking also, who I have great respect for. But his view, as well as many other scientists like Francis Collins and others, is that death existed before Adam and Eve's original sin. And I guess my question is how do they justify that theologically, as far as you can tell? Because I can't imagine that they're not aware of what Romans teaches about this. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, they try to.
I mean, I'm sure they'll
I don't
address it. But as we ourselves have brought up multiple times, you can't really blame Adam and Eve for the fall because there was a fall that preceded it. In order for the serpent to be Lucifer or Satan or whatever the fuck they want to try to make it into being, even though that's clearly not what happens in Genesis, you have to have the fall of Lucifer before the fall of humanity, possibly before creation week or whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah.
And so you've already got the concept of sin, i.e., disobeying God, which should not be possible, but okay. That's already existent in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah,
also,
death could exist.
Also, just slight side note here. Can't really blame Adam and Eve for their fall because they literally didn't know any better.
Yeah, the knowledge of good and evil was withheld from them intentionally. So they could not possibly have been aware that obeying God was good and disobeying God was evil. That was the stupidest. Like, if anything, if God wanted, if Yahweh in his little garden when he still walked the physical earth, if he wanted good, obedient little pets, he should have given them that fruit first and then forbidden something else, and they would have obeyed that. But no, he had to be a contradictory dick.
A contradict, if you will.
Yes.
Or
try to talk about, well, it was spiritual eternity, or instead of, they were spiritually going to live forever, and physical death was always there. But you really can't have Adam and Eve standing on a mountain heap of the fossil record: death, sin, bloodshed, suffering, cancer, carnivorism, all that stuff. And then God finally creates Adam and Eve. It also comes down.
Why can't you have that? Like, you just say we can't have that. Why can't we have that?
I wonder where he thinks all the biomass that is the topsoil that is required for all the trees and things to grow in came from. I mean, either you have death before the fall, or God created a whole bunch of living things pre-dead in order for soil to exist.
down to the principle of dominion. And I believe a proper review of scripture would show that Adam and Eve, they named everything, which was an exercise of authority over the animals. And Romans 8 says that the whole of creation groans under what? Under the weight of sin. So it's clear to me that
I mean, like, if I name my neighbor's car Big Blue, does that mean I have dominion over my neighbor's car?
Biblically speaking, yes, absolutely, because that's how that works. You have the power to name, you have the power to claim. Nobody ever repeat that. Once Eric Coven gets a hold of that, we'll never hear the end of it.
something happened that was a domino effect to the dominion of everything under Adam and Eve, and that's when animals turned against each other. So some older will try to compartmentalize it and say, well, there's spiritual death and then there's physical death. But knowing that the character of God and what the word says, why would God go out of the way to say, hey, he commanded the animals and he commanded humans only eat fruit and vegetables. That's it. That's what you guys are supposed to eat. It's a command, right? In Genesis 1. So something happened, a shift happened after that. And if the shift happened, when did it happen? Well, obviously, at the commencement when Adam and Eve fell, it was cursed. God cursed animals. He cursed the ground. He cursed vegetation. He cursed the relationship between man and woman. He gave Eve pain and childbearing. And he says, Adam's going to work by the sweat of his brow. It was a complete dominion-wide curse that was the result of sin.
Because he's a perfectly just God. So cursing the frickin' house cats for what the humans did is totally just. Very moral.
Yeah. And also, Hill Hugger brings up, they think creationists should be challenged on soil formation or ecology more often. I mean, I do kind of agree, but they'll just try to hand wave it away with the flood. Like it was the last of the dead or some crap like that.
Well, even in Eden, like you needed soil for everything to grow in. Even though everything was created fully mature and already with ripe fruits on it and shit, you still have to have soil to put the trees into.
Well, could they argue that the tree was one of those trees that can just grow in a crack in the ground?
Even those are relying on nutrient deposits from pre-existent. Like if you
True.
You can get some things to grow in like just a crack in the concrete because dirt and shit is accumulated in there and it gives it enough nutrients to technically grow. But if you don't have dirt, then you don't have the dirt in the crack. You'll have dust. You'll have, micro rocks. You'll have fines and shit, but no nutrients, no biomass. It's just broken stone in that case. If you take a freshly cleaved section of cliff and you get the field of fallen rocks and whatnot, it takes a while to even build up to the level of being a fell field where you start to get mosses and wild grasses and shit. And that is largely because it's getting dirt like blown in by wind and weather and whatnot rather than building it up the long way. If you started with a fresh planet, it could take 10,000 years to generate a centimeter of soil, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, also, hey, Tinfoil Freak. Going well. Little drunk. Having a bit of fun. I don't know, I'm 3.5 drinks in, but these have terrible alcohol content, so I kind of chugged a little bit of vodka, but I'll be okay. Anywho.
And so for me, it's absolute butchery of scripture to try to say anything else. I mean, that's just saying it like it is. It's I think it's pretty hard to hold that position to start. We'll say, well, there's physical death and spiritual death. I mean, you look at Romans 5 and 1 Corinthians 15, it's very, very clear that Adam jacked it up. And when he did, death came into the world, not just to him, but to the whole thing, and all of creation's groaning under the weight of that sinful choice.
Okay,
Hope that
great.
helps. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And of course, evolutionists will look at these thorns, then they'll say, well, that thorn is in a rock that's 200 million years old. We have thorns in the fossil record that predate man even being here. So that's another big theological and scientific problem. How in the world could you have thorns 200 million years before Homo sapiens supposedly arrived? So the whole thing's really jacked up if you don't just hold to a literal perspective of Genesis. That would make the result of fall really to have no effect, because you've got all this death, suffering, thorns and thistles and everything else in the fossil record before
Almost
Adam
like
and
it
Eve were even
didn't
here to bring it.
happen.
Yeah, almost like your quote unquote model is physically and historically impossible. Though you'll never admit that, Biddle.
Okay, random conspiracy theory. What if humans were there at the beginning? What if sometime in the future, future humans invent time travel? And I don't know, maybe, you know, World War VII breaks out and it's going to be the final nuclear apocalypse, and so two people manage to escape using time travel, and they're like, where the fuck would we go? And they go, oh, why don't we go back to the beginning? So they go back to the beginning, and there they are. And then turns out, surprise, God actually is there. And then they fuck up, and then God causes the whole thing to start over. Or to start for the first time, I suppose, and that's why. So they're there at the beginning, and then they die off, and then 4 billion years later, humans evolve, and etc. I don't know. It makes more sense than saying, "How could thorns exist before humans?" That's a contradiction.
Why does that even have to be a problem?
Yeah.
Like,
How could gasoline
is
exist
God not
before
allowed
automobiles?
to be edgy? Can God enjoy the look of a thorn?
How could corn exist before farmers?
Do they deny the historical evidence we have for maize domestication?
Oh.
I mean, I imagine they would, but
I mean, once
say
you
for sure.
actually, if you propose it like that, do you deny the historical evidence we have for the domestication of maize and the creation of modern corn? They would say, well, no, of course not. That's stupid. Why would I do that? And then you point out that it took tens of thousands of years. Then they would deny. They'd be, oh, no, hold on now. Clearly, God created wild maize and domestic corn separately.
Has anybody ever engaged? I've tried to engage about cultivars before, because it's like, especially because Ray Comfort with the banana thing, and bananas are the perfect example of a cultivar that we've made that can't even reproduce by itself anymore. That's why they're so fragile.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm really proud of what our agricultural ancestors did. We have so many tasty things today because of their generation upon generation of effort. And I appreciate that. I can see why the ancients were into ancestor worship.
Yeah. And if you're curious about ancestor worship, you can hang around for a week or two while I finish my my documentary kind of on Shanidar Cave.
Woo.
Ooh, maybe some of the oldest evidence of possible life after death belief we have. Or at least venerating the dead.
Yeah. And that would make death and suffering God's fault. And that's
Yes.
a pretty hard thing to stomach.
God created everything knowing what would happen to it. He's the only thing that can be responsible for every speck of wrongdoing in the universe. Unless you want to say that the devil is stronger than God. And if that's the case, what's the worth of God? Hail Satan, and maybe he'll make things better.
Hail Satan. But also, like, God, even if the fall thing were true, like, just suppose for a moment and imagine with me, even if the fall actually did happen, it was God who decided what the curse would be and how it manifests. So choosing to bring death into the world and make that a thing, literally God did that, according to the story. So yes, it's God. Either way, literal or non-literal Bible, it is God's fault. The only way out of that is the secular worldview, which our friend does not like.
Yeah, like I put a shotgun in my toddler's room, and then I blamed my toddler when they got themselves in the face. It's not the toddler's fault.
It's not even that innocent. It's like you have a shotgun. You tell your toddler, pick up your toys or there will be consequences. And then when your toddler doesn't pick up every single toy, they pick up every toy but one, you get out the shotgun and shoot them in the fucking face. Like, you chose this. I didn't even know what the fuck a shotgun was, you asshole. You know?
Hey, Dad, what's that weird stick you have? Ugh. Can you tell these creationists get on our nerves, chat?
This is my boomstick.
So
I was thinking that.
Hey. Now I want to rewatch Red versus Blue.
Actually, it's Army of Darkness.
Yeah, Ash and
Oh,
all the
sorry,
evil
you saying
deadness.
that just made a Red versus Blue quote pop into my head, so that made me want to watch Red versus Blue.
Oh. Yeah, because
Army
that's
of
a classic
Darkness.
Raimiism.
Groovy.
Groovy.
I got my shotgun.
okay,
Yeah, theologically, that just seems
yeah,
impossible to get around.
Yes.
To me it does too. But I think I cut.
Misrepresenting science and the Bible, I think.
Yep.
I'm on the last of these daiquiris, and I'm actually kind of sad.
I kind of learned this at the same time I was going through the scientific discovery of all the data also supporting that. So, of course, man's word is that evolution is time plus death can lead to a shrew-like creature, to a quadruped, to a biped, to cavemen, eventually humans. But
No.
God's word says no, it's sin.
Oh, sin plus death leads to quadrupeds, bipeds, and eventually humans. Interesting choice of words.
Also, I'm sorry, what's the chain there? Like, we go from Thrinaxodon popped in my head, but some kind of cynodont, then a lemur, then a roided as hell chimp, maybe a male Australopithecus, and then possibly human. Bad chain.
None of this is good. No.
Sin is what led to death.
Side note, I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
It's probably a good plan. I was going to suggest it earlier, but he says so many wrong things, we ended up having to stop him like every 12 seconds or so. I'm like, there's no point going faster.
I mean, hey, worst comes to worst, we can just start, like, barrel chugging.
Death. So two totally different views on death. Evolution.
You know, COVID hit right when I was in college. I'm sad I never got to do that. Like, actually kind of sad.
Oh,
Would have been fun.
oh, chugging at parties. I see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The big
miss out on the
girl
parties.
chug. Like, I went to a party college. Like, I could have done that, but then COVID happened. It's
I
sad.
don't know. I did it once at a high school party. It's the kind of thing you want to try to do once just to see what happens, but once is enough.
I mean, I know there's a way to do it.
Darwinism has death as its hero, which supposedly somehow propels vertical evolution up the row. But the Bible's like, no, death is an enemy. It didn't used to be this way, and you guys are at fault for bringing it here. So when your grandma passes away from whatever brings her into the grave, that's the result of Adam's cascading effect of sin, not God's fault. You can blame our first parents for that. So it totally changes your worldview and how you see God and the fossil record. So you really can't have millions of years of death, disease, suffering, bloodshed leading to man's existence. No, rather we had everything was perfect, and sin is what brought death. Okay, so if we do hold to that timeline and look at the biblical timeline, we have about 6,000 years of history. Dinosaurs are created on day 6. We have the fall and corruption.
Never
then we have
mind
about
all the other
1,656 years
history.
until the flood. Then at the
Yeah. What
This
does
isn't
the
the history
Bhagavad
you're
Gita
looking
say
for.
about this?
I mean, for fuck's sake, we have written history older than his. This is the start of history. Like, God's out here, Yahweh is floating over the fucking waters and being like, I'm going to create a garden or whatever. Meanwhile, there were living Hindus in India going, look at that fucking guy floating over the ocean, you know? The fuck?
Yeah. And now I want to watch The Man from Earth because it's a fun movie. That
I
talks
did
about
watch that.
things.
That was
You did? What did
Yes.
you think?
It was an interesting tale. I didn't like a couple of the takes, but it was neat how they tried to like fit things in, but also not make it like he's the superhero of all of history, but also the way the characters all like were skeptical, but in different ways. That was nice, but the twist at the end hurt. Like you could almost
I
see
can
it
kinda
coming,
get
and it
that.
still hurt.
I get that, but it's one of my favorite makes you think movies. Because it just makes your brain go wild with the questions like, what could happen if a caveman survived? What if you couldn't die? How would you see history as it changed and you affected it?
Yeah.
I love it.
Especially in the modern era. You know how he has to talk
Uh-huh.
so many times about how, well, I didn't know what genetics was back then, but that's what we call it now, you know? So yeah, lots of fun stuff.
At the flood event,
Good.
secular paleontologists estimate that there's about 1,000 dinosaur species, but if you kick it up to the family level, it's more about like 85 kinds or 80 kinds of dinosaurs.
Okay, please define those kinds, because I guarantee you cannot split them up in a way that would satisfy me.
And only 1,000 dinosaurs?
Well, species, which
Yeah.
that might be a bit. Okay, that would definitely be low if you include birds, but with non-avian dinosaurs, that's not a horrible estimate. Yeah, let me do a quick check. I don't think that's a horrible estimate. About 700 species, at least according to the AMNH.
I was quite sure there was a lot more than that. Oh well.
Well, on the other hand, Wikipedia says more than 1,000. So,
You know,
Huh.
people shit on Wikipedia, but here's the thing about this, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, but it always bears repeating. Encyclopedia Britannica did a study about which was more reliable, Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, and found that Wikipedia is the more reliable of the two. However, that's an interesting study, but I don't know if I can take it seriously, being that it comes from a source that's less reliable than Wikipedia, by their own admission.
And I'm going to apologize. My medication's kicking in, so I'm going to have to bail out.
Okay.
totally fine, dude. It happens.
It's good
Yeah.
seeing you, Beamsy.
Yeah,
Just for Daniel.
Nice hearing from you.
leaders.
Sleep well. Or, yep. All right. On the bright side, we've made it about 15 minutes.
Woo!
When does your stream start tonight, Ember?
9.
9. Okay, so we have an hour and a half.
What 9 for me?
Dinosaurs at the family level, so that's
Oh,
Yeah, so I've got technically
We have
I've got
30
half an
minutes.
hour, but I need a couple of minutes in between.
fair.
9
we
Eastern,
can make
I
this
should
a
say.
shorter stream. Like, we can do a part 2 of this.
Yeah.
Maybe.
that's all that would have had to be brought on Noah's Ark. There's about 85 dinosaur kinds at the family level. That after they get off of the Ark after the 371 day long flood, dinosaurs are extremely rare. They're hunted. They're hungry. They're not equipped for the post flood world, and they rapidly move into extinction. I think there's a couple of sets or varieties of dinosaurs
what's
that probably live
hunting?
on
If-
to the mid.
The hunters are as rare as the dinosaurs are.
Some of the dinosaurs are
Yeah.
hunters.
Like, what the
I
fuck are
think
you
that's
talking
worth a
about?
drink. Oy vey.
He's laying this out like the poor helpless dinos were dropped into a world full of angry, hungry monsters or some shit. Like, everything is on that boat, you know?
Like, I'm sorry. Unless you have modern technology, you're going to have a damn hard time taking out a T-Rex, man. Let alone a sauropod.
Yeah, I think the only way humans could effectively hunt a T-Rex with Stone Age technology is figure out a way to trap it in like a box canyon and wait for it to get weak from starvation.
Or somehow trick it into falling off a cliff. Maybe.
Yeah.
Mid ages, I think theropods and pterosaurs make a pretty strong argument for the thunderbirds that they saw in a lot of the dinosaur accounts that went on in the BC times, right?
Oh, yeah.
The
He says
fuck?
sauropods. I hate it.
Theropods. Hmm.
It's like a sauropod, but dumber. I don't know. I can't think of a good pejorative. I guess I've had too many drinks too.
Ugh.
Right before Christ, and we'll talk a little bit about that more later when we get to the dragon connection. But after the flood, world version number 2 was a harsher climate. We have mass extinctions. We have the ice age going on. They're being hunted by man, and they were really designed for a green, lush, tropical climate. And now we're talking about.
What about all the dinosaurs that weren't? Like, we have a full list of dinosaurs that would have lived at least half of their life in the snow, man.
I'm like, what the hell is he talking about with this tropical climate business when, you know, assuming, of course, that we're going with what we know about human history fused with the Bible, as many creationists do, and they say immediately after the flood was an ice age, which is why we have an ice age within our own historical records. Like, oh, for fuck's sake. It was a tropical ice age, I guess. Why not?
The tropical ice age, those are so common.
Mm-hmm. With God, all things are possible.
About ice ages, so most of the dinosaurs went extinct quickly after the flood.
So along those same lines, would you say that during that time there were a lot of other animals that also went extinct, or was it primarily dinosaurs that went extinct?
I would say before the flood or before the ice age and up to the ice age, there was probably a lot of rapid dinosaur extinction going on. Then, of course, we have the ice age that started about 100 years after the flood and lasted for about 900 years after the flood, so about 1,000-year period there, where we had a lot of ice age-related flooding that, of course, led to the extinction of all the ice age-related creatures that we would put in the Cenozoic and in those strata.
So I have another question here. Sorry for all the questions.
That's all right. No, fire away. I love it.
So, this is an interesting, one of my students brought this up, and thanks, Garrett, for this question that I'm curious about too, is, we have these gigantic meteorite sites on Earth. It looks like they're giant impact craters. One of them is down at the Yucatan, and, people say there's a theory that dinosaurs were wiped out by the asteroid that hit, and whatever the case, it affected the environment, and that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. Does these meteorites that we see, the impact craters, does this play any role in biblical history that's related to the flood, as far as you know? I don't think the Bible speaks much about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's a tongue twister for you by way of an answer. When the flood happened, God rained wreck upon the earth like we can't even imagine. And when I read in the one verse that snagged me in Genesis 6, I believe it says that God says to man, I will destroy them, humanity, with the earth. And I'm like, whoa, if people could even understand what that one sentence means. God says, I'm going to turn the earth into a wrecking machine for corrupt humanity and animals. And that's a terrifying verse. And I'm going to show you exactly how that went down. Now, back to the asteroids, there's a good chance that there were a few dozen asteroids that were involved in the commencement of the flood that possibly could have triggered Genesis 7:11, but the fountains of the great deep bursting forth, because God cracked the earth, the crust of the earth, like an eggshell. And if you find craters, and there are a few dozen of them that are in pre-flood layers, those probably happened at the commencement of the flood. The Chicxulub asteroid in the Yucatan Peninsula is a candidate for that. Personally, I think a good candidate because of the tektites that they find in North Dakota, which are these little glass-like BB-sized droplets that were raining down from heaven that were likely from an asteroid strike. I don't believe, of course, the Chicxulub asteroid is a reason for the dinosaur extinction. I think it might have been involved around the same period. But most of the asteroid crater record that we have is post-flood.
Okay.
But some of that is
And they
Oh.
say we have rescuing devices, but this is just, come on.
Most of the asteroids are post-flood. So most of the asteroid impacts all over the Earth are within the past 4,000 years. Now, this isn't on the same order of magnitude as the radioactive decay heat problem, but it is a heat problem. Because, as you may be aware, whenever an asteroid penetrates through the atmosphere, it creates a shit ton of heat. Not just from the impact, but just the passage through the atmosphere. Just that friction alone creates a wave of heat, sometimes equivalent to a nuclear weapon detonation.
Yeah.
And it's unfreaking real. If every asteroid impact happened within the past 4,000 years, the surface of the Earth would have been sterilized by the heat.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. How much of our ocean should be in the upper atmosphere?
Well, it depends on how much you want to spread it out and exactly how many impacts we're dealing with, which I do not know off the top of my head. How many?
Enough to turn the Earth into a gas
Millions.
giant.
If you want to talk about
But-
sizable impacts, thousands.
I mean,
I
well,
wonder if
just for example, look at the surface of the moon, and remember the moon is a quarter of the size the Earth is. That's how many impacts we're talking about.
the
Side note, that reminds me, I've kind of been wanting to play around with Universe Simulator lately.
Oh, Universe
do you
Looks
Sandbox.
like it might be fun.
do you all think like some of the animals that live down by the thermal vents could survive that sort of impact?
If the
Maybe.
oceans stick around, maybe.
Yeah, if the oceans are still there, probably. But with how much heat we're talking about, they might get a lot shallower. Anyway,
Dino
dinosaur design
designs.
demands a designer. No, it does not.
I mean, well, kind of, but not in the way he means. Like, evolution could be considered a designer under those circumstances, a blind natural process. But if you, like, are fast and loose with the word designer, then it kind of, yes. It's who wrote the book? The
You are
Blind
being so
Watchmaker?
charitable right now. I'm just saying.
I just want things to make sense.
I mean,
I'm on the
like,
wrong stream, I know.
for being so well designed. Like, here's an example of an Allosaurus. Oh wait, this is Big L2. Where's Big L1? Big Al is an Allosaurus that is arguably the most beat up animal we have in the fossil record. Like, it is a wonder it survived as long as it did.
Oh, right. It was Big Gay L who got beat up by all the homophobe dinosaurs.
Okay, everyone, I think it's about time to cut the stream short. That was actually pain.
It was a South Park reference. But no, this is one of the Allosaurs who, like, every bone that was found had at least one healed break in it or something, correct?
19 of its bones were broken or showed signs of serious infection. It had 5 broken ribs, 5 broken vertebrae, 4 bones of the feet were broken.
It's like Bruce
It had-
Willis, the dinosaur.
It had osteomyelitis. Like, it was
It had
Not
a rough
well.
time.
it was so beat up.
It was the whipping boy for the Allosaurus prince.
Like, no, dinosaurs had to deal with a lot of shit. And even though they were more efficient than mammals in many regards, they were not perfect creatures. They had to suffer a lot. Ugh.
Is pre-flood.
Hmm.
Dr. Andrew Snelling has done an article on that. If you just go to searchcreation.org, you'll probably find it.
Great. Okay.
Snelling.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go real quickly past this part. I'm just going to speed up through some of this. We've all probably heard about Behemoth in Job chapter 40. We've got a YouTube video on this, but the Job chapter 40 gives out 13 or 14 different characteristics about this creator called Behemoth. And
Yeah,
He's going-
we have
he's-
Behemoth. I
He's
think
going
that's a drink.
to yes. He's moving away from AIG. As bad as their science is, at least they try to pretend to be scientific, and he's going with the Hovind school of explaining things.
I mean, to be fair, AIG also spreads this crap, or at least they used to.
I think AIG still stands, AIG still stands on Behemoth being a dinosaur, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
And God says, what strength it has in its loins, with power in its stomach muscles, and the sinews of its thighs are very closely knit, and its bones are just like beams of bronze, and its ribs are like rods of iron. It's got a tail that sways like a cedar tree. The first giveaway to this being a sauropod dinosaur.
Not that kind of cedar, you dipshit. There's more than one kind of cedar, and the kind they're talking about there looks exactly like an elephant tail. Also, sorry, Aaron Ra did a great breakdown on this where he actually quotes a Bible scholar. The important part of that sentence is the tail sways like a cedar. It's not saying the tail itself is like a cedar tree. And you know what tail sways a lot like a Middle Eastern cedar?
Well, and people who when you compare it to an elephant, the elephant's tail looks really small compared to an elephant, right? But the elephant's tail is several feet long. It's not a tiny appendage by any means.
Plus, like when they get pissed off, an elephant's tail goes up, and it looks like a tree waving around. And if you see that, you better freaking run. Like, that is the danger position for an elephant.
Interesting. I wonder if that's related to the deer's tail reaction. Probably it's convergent rather than, but still, whatever. I am also enjoying
they are both
that
ungulates.
half of the fucking presentation is covered with fucking Kevin's bullshit head and banner and whatnot.
Yeah. Like, great presentation here, man. Be nice if I could see it. Also, sorry, I gotta go again. I'll be right back.
All those wine coolers.
Poor dinos just don't have the bladder size of us advanced mammals with 65 million more years of fluid storage expertise.
Yeah, maybe he needs to go swallow some gastroliths.
Yeah, maybe. Slow things down a little bit in the process there.
Right. So, ribs like rods of iron, bones are tubes of bronze.
The ribs are not bones, apparently. So, there's that. Also, when the fuck was this written? This is from Job, right?
Yeah, Job's the oldest book of the Bible, right?
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, the Hebrew volumes were predominantly Bronze Age, and Job is the oldest one of all, so it would definitely be early Bronze Age, if not pre-bronze. And it's talking about bronze tubes. Okay, cool. That fits with Bronze Age. What the fuck do they mean, ribs like rods of iron? There's no way that was in that book. You know?
Would they have had to, with neighboring, so who would be neighboring societies? Egypt, obviously, but
When was iron working invented?
blacksmithing.
Okay, Egypt got iron craft in between 5,000 and 3,000 BCE. So yeah, Egypt would have had iron, but yeah, the the
Israelites.
Israelites would not. No. I get this is just a quick Google search, but apparently the Middle East and Europe didn't get their hands on ironworking until the late 11th century.
Mm. Wow. That's
Although
11th
it's
century BCE.
no CE, like as in 900 years ago.
Oh, damn.
But that may not, again, it's a quick Google. It may be failing to account for the technological loss following the fall of Rome and the rise of the church.
All right, back. Sorry, and no, I did not appreciate the making fun of a dinosaur bladder. How dare you?
Dinosaur is just that one sentence. That's really all we need there.
How about we go till 8:50 Eastern, then call it good for this.
Fine by me.
Sure. Yeah, we can do a part 2 or what have you.
Yeah.
Need there when God says in the Hebrew, behemoth ranks first among the works of God. The word that we translate from the Hebrew is chief. God says of this creature, it's the chief of all of my created works. And here we have,
I thought
130
he
foot
said
long
humans
sauropod
were in
dinosaur.
charge.
Apparently not.
Yeah, because now here's, this elephant, hippo, whatever the fuck,
Well,
and it's the boss now because humans fucked up, so now it's in charge.
so
It's our
the way
doing.
I've heard it translated is it's chief as in the best or the greatest physically, not so much as in charge. Like it is the strongest thing around, even if it isn't in charge of everything.
Oh, I did misread that. Ironworking was introduced to. Um, they break up the Middle East into different things. Europe got it in the 11th century BCE. Turkey got it in 1500 BCE. So that would start to put it in the range of when the books of the Bible were at least, the Pentateuch was being verbally passed around.
Yeah, I think they had iron at the time. Like not steel, obviously, but iron. I think.
But I'm not sure when the ironworks came to the land of Canaan. I bet.
Yeah, there's
I
a
bet
huge range
Skip
of
Davis would know.
inconsistency.
Hey,
Like-
history is complicated.
Yeah, and there were periods where there were losses of technology due to wars and plagues and churches and things. History Channel says the Iron Age was a period of human history that started at 1200 BCE. And yet we just covered how there were cultures who had iron producing capability in 5000 BCE. So it's a very fuzzy gradient.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic if technology used to be lost during wars when in the last few centuries it's been like the greatest source of innovation.
Pluses and minuses. I blame the church for a lot of technological loss because the idea was to make people be stupid so they'd obey. And so we lost a lot. But that's a whole other rant on a whole other stream. We like to think of ourselves as being so technologically sophisticated. We're so far ahead of every other human civilization ever, and yet we only just recently figured out how to recreate Roman concrete.
The salt water was the secret ingredient. Who would have thought?
Yeah, right? It was super simple, but we only just reclaimed that technology. Indoor plumbing. we who are alive today tend to take it for granted. But I myself remember houses that did not have it because it was such a new technology. They were built without it. It's not, we haven't had it that long, and the Romans had that too. Like, we're just now catching up to a lot of shit the ancients had. Granted, we do
Yeah.
have some shit that probably the ancients didn't have, like transistors, but a lot of the very basic things we're just now getting back. Now that we've had we've been prying the church off of our collective throats for a few hundred years.
Did the Romans have any sort of basic canonry, or was that entirely more like Middle Ages?
Like gunpowder driven artillery? I
Yeah.
don't believe so. The Greeks were probably the closest. They didn't use gunpowder per se, but they had that fire oil and the
Greek
vapor.
fire.
Yeah. Yeah, the vapor from the naphtha or naphthalene component could be made to be explosive. So they'd fill the vials with the oil, get it started, and then use pressurized vapor that they lit to create the explosion to propel the vials, which is similar to an artillery attack, an incendiary round, I suppose. That wasn't the only way they launched the vials, though. They had a version of a trebuchet. Scaled down, of course, but something along those lines, if I recall correctly.
So, did they figure out the Greek fire yet? I thought that recipe was lost too.
The official recipe is we've got a few different chemical solutions that do what the legends say Greek fire oil did. So we may have recreated it. We just don't know that it's exactly the same thing as what the Greeks used to use. But the key component is naphtha or naphthalene.
So that sounds
Fun.
very similar to napalm.
Weirdly, yes. Even though you don't necessarily okay, so there's two different recipes for napalm. I really shouldn't say either one on a live stream.
Pouring
What do you
gasoline into a foam cup.
Well, that wasn't where I was going to go with that. But yeah, there is a homemade version you can do with gasoline and some other ingredients. But yeah, anyway, enough with the do it at home weapons of mass destruction.
Those are the
Dinosaur that can weigh upward of
Prepper's cookbook.
Anarchist cookbook.
80 tons,
Yeah.
and God describes 13 characteristics about it. Here they are. God says first it was made along with man, because God tells Job, consider behemoth, which I made along with you, like on the same sixth day of creation.
Yeah.
It eats grass. It's got strength in its hips and stomach muscles. Well, come on, God, because lots of animals have strength in their hips and stomach muscles. Why is God pointing this out of a behemoth? It's got a tail that sways like a cedar tree. Well, not too many other animals can do that besides a behemoth, a sauropod dinosaur. It goes on and on and on. And these characteristics perfectly fit a sauropod. They don't fit a hippo, and they don't really fit a croc. So we believe firmly that God is describing the chief of all of his
Is
works
it
as
God
behemoth, as a
describing
sauropod
that?
dinosaur. Here's how large their legs.
Because, like, why did God describe stuff as ribs like iron and shit?
Well, God
Sorry,
does
just realized
describe.
I was muted. I think we can just count this as like 2 or 3 drinks in a row, because holy misrepresentation, Batman.
Yeah, God is the one saying this to Job. He's just he's like doing a humble brag where he's like, could you do this? Could you do that? So he's bragging about how powerful these animals he subdued is, how strong they were and how mighty. And they're just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just behold the greatest of my creations, shake in his awesomeness or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
So humans are definitively not the greatest of Yahweh's creations. Cool, good to know.
Physically, at least, which seems to be what the passage is going for.
Their legs can get. That's the chief of God's work. Look how massive that thigh bone is. There's its footprint, the largest footprint in the world. Look how that thing could stomp on a man, just incredibly large feet. Here's when you look at its amazing design, there's just a sauropod leg. But just notice the chief engineer and how he did that. You've got a hip structure.
I like how that lines up with your background.
Just hollowed out, by the way, just like the Bible says, its legs are like tubes of bronze. It's literally like a tube. It's got a hard enamel casing and soft marrow on the inside. Then it goes from 1 to 2 to several to several. So
Sorry, I need to rewind there really quick because I think he just said a thing that sent me over the edge when I was scouting through this.
I was
Oh,
just
come
saying
on,
the claw in your background looks like it extends from the bones that guy's showing. And his ad's
Oh
over
yeah,
top of
and,
the
and
foot
yeah,
that he's
it almost lines up. Yeah.
YouTube, come on.
How
Why you
rude,
be
how rude.
asshole? Come on.
you
All
confused
right,
it by pushing buttons.
I
Yeah,
pressed back
how dare you?
15
How dare you?
seconds.
What were you thinking? Well, I should probably pop off and
of
go get
bronze,
ready for
it's
the
literally
other
like a
show.
Yeah,
tube that's got a
we're
hard
just
enamel
about done.
casing and soft marrow on the inside. Then it goes from 1 to 2 to several to several. So look at that weight distribution engineering that's going on there. You have one huge massive femur, then it goes and it distributes the load to 2
Yeah, right.
bones, and then to 4 or 5
I think
bones.
he says
But when you
enamel.
look at its amazing design, there's just a sauropod leg. But just notice the chief engineer and how he did that. You've got a hip structure that goes to a powerful femur, which is hollowed out, by the way, just like the Bible says. Its legs are like tubes of bronze.
Sorry, that's not a femur. That's a foreleg. That's a humerus.
You see the shoulder girdle up there, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a hip bone either. So
Yeah.
shock. Don Biddle doesn't know what the hell he's talking
Sorry.
about.
Anyway, Ember has to go prepare for another stream. I'll probably just be in the audience, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things go.
Yeah, fun times. I've got a Speed from Answers in Atheism is dropping by. We've got a couple of fun shorter creationist videos to go through, so there's a chance we might actually finish them. We'll see how it goes.
Have anything else to shill before you disappear?
I could go on for a while, but you know that I've always got shit going on.
All right. Well, we'll catch you later. See you in a few
Alrighty.
minutes.
Doodles.
Later.
And how about you, Bree? Anything going on your side of the internet?
Well, let's see. I have. Oh, we're talking about reptilian overlords on the 2nd. So Wednesday, we're gonna have that. And then next Saturday, Live from the Hive. I got some really cool stuff lined up. Stuff about eating bugs. So you don't want to miss that.
I'm gonna guess I'm not allowed in a discussion of reptilian overlords.
Yeah. Oh, you're a Saurian. You can be our Saurian overlords. I don't know if you. Well, it's kind of funny because Saurian means means lizard-like anyway. But
Yeah, close enough.
Yep.
Well, as for my channel, I am currently working on a video about Shanadar Cave and the Neanderthals found within. Should be a fun adventure. I'm gonna start streaming my research streams, so yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
thank you all
awesome.
for joining us for this shorter than normal theater. Anything else you want to say, Bree?
Nope. Be kind. Take care, and see you around.
Yeah. See y'all later. Have a good one.